I wanted to have an open conversation tonight that we don't often have in this country. And first of all, I am overwhelmed. I'm sort of shocked by how many people were coming out tonight. We should have gotten a bigger venue. I apologize. Apparently there were about 2,000 RSVPs, and we have room for 250 in here plus 100 in the overflow room next door. And what that tells me is people are just starving for conversation in this country, right? We've been told, mostly by the media, to shut up, sit down, do as you're told, to sweep it under the rug, or else you're guilty of some sin. And I just think that the truth in this country is we don't have to agree on everything. We really don't. We never have in America. But the beauty of this country is we should be able to talk about it in the open. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Have an open conversation, unfiltered. We got two ground rules for tonight. I think there's people here who probably disagree with some of my views, people who agree with some of my views, but our ground rules for tonight is honesty and respect for your fellow citizens. Be honest. Don't censor yourself. Respectful, even to those who disagree with me or you or anybody else. That's how we're going to get our country back. Now, I met earlier today with a group of Haitians here. I met with the city management. I wanted to come see with my own eyes because I don't really trust the media anymore. We've been taught not to, okay? We've been taught not to. We invited them, but that doesn't mean we have to trust them. And if you actually want to trust the people of this country, the best way to do it is to speak directly to them without filters. I'll share with you what my perspectives are. Coming out of some of those meetings with members of the Haitian community, leaders from that community, city officials, here's my takeaway. There's about 70,000 people now in Springfield. And by the way, people ask me, why'd you come to Springfield? One of the media networks, MSNBC last night, said, I'm descending on Springfield to do this event. So I guess it's a fair question. Why are you here in Springfield? I grew up an hour from here. I've had more subs there, probably most of you here. We used to play in Wittenberg. Every summer had a tennis program I would participate in. I've got aunts, uncles that have lived here, still live here. So this is close to home for me. And if an issue of national significance is happening in my backyard, no, I'm not going to turn my back. I want to actually see what we can do that's positive for this community. But one of the things I've learned, here's my view, is that I don't actually blame any of the 70,000 people in Springfield for the mess in Springfield. That includes the 50,000 people like my family members or others of you who have lived here for a long time or for generations. After meeting with a bunch of them today, I don't even blame the 12 to 20,000. Most I blame. Had car 100%. You have seen a rise in communicable diseases. That's real. Those are facts. They're not deniable. The traffic. They are, but I don't have the facts on that. But the right way through the country cannot break the law. And so if we've had the largest influx of illegal immigrants in American history, stand for the rule of law. And that's not racist or xenophobic law in the United States of America. The issue in this community, I will admit, is a little tougher than that, hiding from the system. Most of the Haitians who are here, at least our own government told them that they're actually allowed to be here. I blame the government for that. But that's a separate issue of legal immigration. What type, not just the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, America would do well to agree on is, if you're going to depend on government services or the welfare state when you enter this country, then you should not be permitted to enter the country. And I totally said it was respect their decision, it was their choice. But I'll tell you something that surprised me, and this is a positive. The Haitian community leaders who I met with here, I believe in honest dialogue. I told them, may not agree with everything I say. You may or may not. Several of them had very compelling stories. One was a doctor, educated in Haiti, but they don't recognize the medical license here, so he put himself through nursing school, and he's actually making contributions to this community. I told him, here's my view, is that our communicable disease going up, or our social services strained, Medicaid running out of money, and run very poorly, schools under strain, welfare, food stamps. Here's my view is I don't think you should be allowed. It was a difficult thing to say. You're in a room face to face. I said, I don't think you should be able to enter this country if you're going to depend on the entitlement state or the welfare state. What do you believe? And I'll give credit to actually people in that room. They thought about it. And to a person, there was at least 4 community leaders that that's fair. Actually, that's a fair way to look at this. And so my hope is that through open conversations, through actually speaking without fear, we actually not only solve the problems of this country, but dare I say, unite this country as well. That's what I hope to do tonight. So my friend Tiffany Justice is here. She's going to help take questions from the audience. I promise not to talk too much. Just wanted to get some stuff off my chest to kick this off. I'll be glad to answer any questions. But the thing I really want to do is hear from the actual experiences of the residents of Springfield, a town that means a lot to me, a town where I spent a lot of time growing up, a town whose best days don't have to be behind it, but can still be ahead, just like the rest of our country. And so if you have a question, just raise your hand, and Tiffany will call on you and help bring you up. And the goal tonight is don't hold back. There's one risk you can take, which is to censor yourself. The other risk you could take is you say too much, and you might offend somebody in the process. Take the second risk, not the first, and that's how I think we're going to get our country back. So, thanks. A friend, Bill Plummer, good to see you.
Thanks, you guys. Let's hear it for Vivek. Spending time coming over here to help us out in Springfield. He's the man. He is the man. Vivek, I'm a current lawmaker, so anything I can do for you guys in the state of Ohio, I know this is a big national problem, feel free to call me. I'm also the former sheriff in Montgomery County, so I understand the problems here. But Vivek's hit on a lot of it. I mean, we let the media grab the story about the ducks and the geese and the dogs and the cats. That's not the story. The story is what this is costing you guys, right? What this is costing the American citizen when your hospitals are full. We get new diseases here. You know, there's a lot going on that you guys should not have to pay for, and I feel sorry for you guys. I'm right across in Dayton, Ohio, Vandalia. That's where I'm at. And I see this migrating in my community, okay? So we're with you guys in spirit. But, Vivek, we have to figure out a way to close these borders. These guys need leadership. They need love. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that, my man. Thank you for everything you're doing as a state rep. Appreciate that. It's a good man serving this state. It's not a thankful job at all the time, but I appreciate that. We need more people to make that sacrifice. So thank you, brother.
Yes, I just wanted to come up, and I know we're talking a lot about the immigrant population and stuff here, but I want to talk about like the veterans and the people of the actual Springfield. Like I was born and raised here. In Tucker Carlson's debate he had the other night, they were talking about how we were destroyed by taking away our factories, and then they filled it full of drugs, and then they sent all of us out to war, but we're not getting any support. You know, the vets that are across the United States, but in Ohio, like we have a terrible VA system. We need a lot of help, you know what I'm saying? And so I hear like people talk about the Haitians and the different things that's going on, but like our veterans need help. And so I'm just kind of curious to like, you know, what ideas you have, you know, to help out for the veterans.
Have you personally served?
I'm a combat veteran, yes.
Thank you. Give this man a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, man. So I think one of the things we need to do in this country is to fix the VA once and for all, to really treat it the way a business treats its shareholders is the way the VA should actually treat its veterans. Right. That's who you actually work for. And I personally believe that, see, here's the problem in this country. I'll just give it to you straight. I think the people we elect to run the government, they're not running the government. Right. The people who are pulling the strings are unelected bureaucrats, both in the public sector and the private sector. And that's happened in the VA. And I've had family members who've worked in the VA. My mom used to work in the VA at University of Cincinnati, outside the University of Cincinnati, the VA there, taking care of patients with PTSD who had served this country as combat veterans as well. My wife's worked with the VA system. Here's the reality is I think every veteran, just like the shareholders of a company, vote for who actually runs the board. I think the veterans of this country should get a vote on the compensation and pay of the people who run the VA based on how good of a job they're doing 1,000%. As well. And that bureaucracy, it's not just in the government. So it exists in the See, the deep state's not just in the government, actually. That's the dirty little secret. It pervades every other sphere of our lives. I wasn't planning to mention this in my introduction, but you brought this up, and it relates directly to it, right? So I posted on social media about this event, and I wanted to be constructive in the community to set a tone where your mayor and other city leaders have asked for help. I'm not in office right now, and so I want to think about, as a businessman or as somebody who's lived the American dream, how can I help? I appreciate that. I tried. And we didn't get to Ohio. So but I thinking about, this country's blessed us with so much. We've lived the American dream. I thought, okay, how can we use our resources to do what's right and help the community here? So this is a story about this trip. Just tells you about the power of bureaucracy in America. So we say, okay, maybe it's the hospital that's strained. So I call around city leaders. They say, no, it's not really the hospital. It's primary care that's actually been strained the most. And there's some nonprofits working on primary care here. And so we offered a $100,000 gift to support those charitable efforts. And guess what got in the way? They turned down the gift. Bureaucracy along the way. And I think that it has something to do with I can only speculate, it has something to do with my political perspective or otherwise. But I think that the reality is we need to put that to one side and say, if we have ways to solve problems, whether it's in the VA, whether it's in the private sector, whether it's in philanthropy, just get the bureaucracy out of the way so that at least in government, the people who we elect to run the government once again run the government. And in the private sector, too, the people who actually are running the show are people who actually care about solving the problem rather than looking after their own optics or appearances. And if we do that, I think we're going to save the country. So thank you. Why don't you come on up, sir. Thank you. You can do whatever you'd like. You can go to the microphone, though. There's like 1 million cameras here, so we can get you a video after, too. I like this helmet, though. That's good.
AGV, best helmet brand, very safe. Ooh, baby, who you watching? Metal Rider on the cam. All right. So, something just fired me up and told me that I needed to be here. I don't know if it was God or what, but I had a wake-up call the other day. So, I was motivated by being scammed by a shady business. Drip season. They scammed me, and it motivated me to, go out and do on-scene investigations on local businesses. So I've been in these streets working my butt off while working a normal job that I feel like I'm just struggling there, and just with all this stuff that's been going on in the community, it just makes it even harder. To where I've been so motivated to pull 60-hour days, 23-hour days, out filming, giving back to the community. But I've been going around to local businesses like Game Cycle, Catazero's, Bubby's Chicken and Waffles.
Do you have a question?
I thought you said I can talk about local.
But we've got a lot of questions.
I just want to be
I'll make it
respectful of
quick.
everybody
I'll make
here.
it quick.
Yeah, super quick, and then we'll give some other people
So
a chance.
the commissioner of the city said something that I thought was very inappropriate. To be honest, I don't know if it was a deep fake or not. It's going all over Facebook. I don't really trust Facebook. But she said that she doesn't give a S word about local businesses, and it's been going all around. Like it's been super viral, and that put a fire in my butt and made me want to come up here and mention this. That I thought that was unprofessional. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So you'd like for Vivek to answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware of that, man, but I got to say, it annoys the S out of me, right, to hear people who we elect to actually represent us as we the people, to actually say that right now, what are people suffering through? Prices have gone up, wages have stayed flat, small businesses are going to be the backbone of saving this country. And so I don't know which city official you're talking about, but the reality is, both from city officials, you want to know the only thing I'll give her credit for is effectively the people in the federal government right now, in my opinion, think the same thing. It's just that they're not saying it out loud. So in her case, for saying it out loud, at least I'll give her small partial credit for that. And as a small business owner yourself, if you are. That'd be good. I want to give a chance to this gentleman, and then we'll come back at the end. Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you too. No, I appreciate you bringing it up, sir. Go right here, and then we'll come right here. Thank you.
Okay. Springfield's got a lot of great history. I believe it was this very building where Orville and Wilbur Wright came to see their attorney for a patent for the airplane. We have a lot of great history in this town, and I've been a lifelong citizen here, 59 years, and I have my trucks loaded for the last of my things outside. When I was a little kid growing up, I don't want to sound like a speech. I'm going to try to make it as quick as I possibly can. I see these infomercials on television about these little bony Haitian kids with the bloated stomachs and the flies flying all over them, and I would cry myself to sleep growing up. I was traumatized by that. It mortified me. And I was so proud of my family. It's something that nobody in this room knows about, just a little piece of the great history of the city of Springfield. I'm related to all of the well drilling companies in the 1970s, the well drilling companies of Springfield, Clark County. I'm related to all of those people, pretty much. I think all of those companies. And they, on their own dime, went to Haiti on their own dime and drilled the water wells that gave them fresh water to drink. And that came from Springfield, Ohio. And I don't think anybody knows it. It was just a little piece of history I'm proud of. Nobody would know that. We got a whole movie of it, but nobody's ever talked about it. But my family's dealing with some things. My sister got hit left of center. Somebody went left of center with no license and no insurance on my birthday a year ago. And so now the taxpayers are in it now for about $400,000, and she's had multiple surgeries and still can't walk. She didn't get to be there and hold her babies, her grandbabies that were all being born and things like that. And I have my issues with my health issues that's preventing me from working. And so you try to get into a hospital that's 100% capacity. And I hear that it's half, that a third, that one whole wing of it's HIV patients. Don't know. But you try to get your testing done, your MRIs, your x-rays. You try to get your EMGs. I scheduled an EMG on June 11th. I was still employed at that time. You know, they was very patient with me. But I just got my EMG just the other day. And so we're dealing with that's my own family and some of the things that we're dealing with. You know, it's something that's near and dear to my heart is the motherless kittens in the alleys of Springfield. Where's the mothers? Okay, there's the animal thing. If we can't care for the least of these and kittens, I don't think it's something for the Kamala should be laughing about.
I agree with you. Thank you, my man. What's your name? Kevin. Thank you. Thank you. Give this man a round of applause for his love of the history of this city. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. Because as we know, our educational system is failing our kids. It is. Our taxpayer dollars are always being used against you, just in case you weren't aware of that.
Thank you. From a dad to a mom, thank you for that. I'll give you a couple of pragmatic answers. One is, actually, the schools are strained for dollars. Public schools are. I got a good place to find them, actually. So there's about $80 billion spent by this behemoth thing called the U.S. Department of Education. First step is shut that down and send the money back to the people of this country. That would actually work pretty well. The second thing is, so I gave you, and it's one of the things I want to try to develop over today. It's not something I'm preaching at you, but I want to hear from you and tell me what you think of it. In developing a sensible immigration policy for this country, especially now as it affects our schools. So I gave you one principle earlier, which is that, and this is legal immigration. The easy stuff is, okay, if you're in this country illegally, send you back, build the wall, use the military, use aquatic barriers. That's the easy stuff, all right, to get that done. That goes without saying. But on the hard stuff, if you're going to depend on the welfare state, you don't get in. Here's one more, too. I believe that you should be able to speak the language of the United States of America, English, in order to enter. And as it relates to schools, that burden alone, it's not going to fix all of the problems that you just asked about, but that alone is actually going to go a long distance in relieving the pressure on a lot of schools, especially public schools, when it comes to language as a basic barrier. versus there's actually many more people who do want to come to the United States of America than can, who have skill sets, don't depend on the welfare state, and know English. If you're going to pick the limited number, you may as well pick the ones that are most likely to be able to assimilate, most likely to be able to be participants in economic action, and those who are able to actually integrate their kids into the schools. That would be a suggestion I'd offer, and you guys let me know what you think. But thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. A couple months I'll be a resident of Springfield, Clark County for 61 years. If our city council and everybody wants to be a part of the solution, I've been sitting right there by the door. I haven't seen a single one of them come in here. So,
all are welcome. I put out a tweet. I said, I'm going to Springfield. Thursday was the first day I could be free to get here. I want to thank Jim Lagos because I think it was very difficult to find a spot to host this, so he did a great job of volunteering this space for us. But I under-anticipated. There's 2,000 RSVPs, and we only had space for 350 people. So to the extent somebody couldn't get in, in a town of 60 to 70,000 people, that says a lot. But regardless, if people couldn't get in, that's on me.
I'm Mr. Ramaswamy. Thanks for coming tonight. Definitely appreciate it. I've been a lifelong resident of Springfield for 46 of my 50 years. 4 of those were spent in the U.S. Navy. So I know the city very well. So prior to the arrival of our immigrants, we were suffering from, as many American cities have, and we continue to suffer with the drug epidemic and homelessness, among other issues that's plaguing our city and the country. And now with having an additional 15 to 20,000 new residents in such a brief period, our already burdened sectors of government, private, and public resources are now critically overwhelmed. I voted for President Trump in 2016, 2020, and I will again on November 5th. President Trump vowed to do, quote, large deportations from Springfield, Ohio. But like you said earlier, most, if not nearly all of the immigrants here are here legally. So the notion of deporting all of them and then everything will be okay is not based in reality. So my question to you is this. What realistic plans can you, President Trump, and Congress produce for Springfield and cities like Springfield to be able to adapt and thrive for all of us, both citizens and immigrants?
I appreciate your thoughtful question. I don't agree with 100% of it, but I appreciate you identifying who you're voting for, but still are able to ask tough questions. I like that. So I'll say something here. First of all, is the most important part of your question is we can fall into a trap, and I don't want to see us fall into this, is there are real problems that we need to address in this country that actually have nothing to do with immigration as well. And I think that we can sweep a lot of that under the rug. Those are failures of our elected and increasingly unelected leaders of the country that we got to address by way of economic growth in this country, wage stagnation in this country. You think about even workforce training and preparedness for the changing economy, our reliance on China for our modern way of life. These are big issues even outside of the specific immigration and mass migration issues. So part of your point is we can't sweep all that under the rug and just blame it on immigrants. I agree with you, actually. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. How are we going to achieve mass deportations? Well, first of all, you got anybody who's committed a crime in this country, anybody who is actually currently detained. That's an easy set of deportations right out the gate. You're talking about millions of people that fit those two categories together. That alone would be the largest mass deportation in American history. The next thing you got to do is it's like you got a clogged drain, right? What do? First thing you do is you turn off the faucet. You don't try to clean the drain while you leave the faucet on. Use our military to secure the border. Use the National Guard if necessary. Aquatic barriers in the Rio Grande. And yes, complete the construction of the wall, which is not a racist or xenophobic action. And so the way I think about it is let's just talk about some principles we can agree on. All right? Maybe if I was writing this down, we'll be a little more precise, but I'll give it to you kind of off the top here. Think about it like your body, right? Violation of your consent. A nation's body is its land. No migration without consent, number one. Number two, consent should only be granted to migrants who benefit the United States of America. And number three is, those who enter without consent shall be removed. And if anybody wants to disagree with me on that, that's fine. We can debate that. But I haven't met an American who actually disagrees with those three principles. So if we all agree on it, the country that put a man on the moon can get this job done. It's just a question of actually having the will to do it. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. I saw an article, I think it was Epic Times, where they were talking about there are 5 companies who want these Haitians here to be workers. And accidentally, there is a massive Amazon fulfillment center being built down, I think, at the south end of South Charleston. I'm sure a lot of these people are being brought in for that as well. If these companies, these big companies, need these people, why are they not paying their way to get them here and house them? Especially Bezos, he's got plenty of money. If he needs those people, we've got some greedy landlords putting out long-term renters who are going to, a lot of them end up on the streets. They're getting rich, putting 20 migrants in a house. They're getting $200 per migrant in these houses. And the long-term renters that pay $700 to $900 are out on the street. How do we stop that?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of this comes from, I think, special currying in favor to industries that manage to lobby for advantages to them. One of the things is, even in the legal immigration system, people don't talk about this. Even actually the immigrants who are left holding the bag. So the H-1B system, for example, you can't even switch companies. You're attached to just the company that brought you. You know who lobbied for that? The very companies who got the advantage from the law in the first place. So I think this is one of those cases where, and here I've heard tales of the ways in which these companies are actually subsidized particularly. I want to get to the bottom of those facts. But if we end lobbying in the federal government, I think that actually solves half of this problem. To say if you've served in Congress or served in the Senate or served as a bureaucrat, for at least 10 years you can't lobby that same government, half of this melts away right there. And so fix the corruption. Half the problem is that government's actually responsive to the people of this country again. Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. Thank you. You can stand here so I can face these people too. That sounds good. Otherwise, I got my back to them the whole time.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Ramaswamy, and much respect too for the climate here. It wasn't exactly welcoming, but I was a little concerned about the topic of this conversation, the dialogue for unity, because I think one thing we should be united on, there simply are too many mass migrants here in this town. And they're too richly subsidized. It's pushing people out of their homes. It's pushing people out of jobs. I know there's employers that say they need the employees. Amazon's just fired hundreds of people to replace them with migrant workers. So we need less migrants in this town. We can't absorb them. We need to take some of that money that's being given to them and give that to people in the community who've been harmed by this. Maybe give some money. Maybe give some.
Let him finish. Yep.
Yeah, and maybe give some money to local businesses so that they can upgrade their equipment rather than hire low-wage, no-skilled migrants. Let's upgrade their equipment. Maybe give some grants to the tech schools so that we have kids qualified to run modern equipment.
So let me ask you a question, because I said my objective here is also to inform my own views, not reading what I need in the newspaper, but hearing from our fellow citizens. What do you believe should be the criteria for the kinds of immigrants or migrants that Springfield should want to keep versus the criteria for Springfield to want to expel, or not allow in the future? What would be your perspective on?
I mean, if it was up to me, we'd start all over. We'd send them away and start all over because they were brought in without our consent. You know, some people were getting rich off of it, but it's harmed the rest of us. If there are people who are working and these are honest jobs, fine. If they're here, just again, they're taking up Social Security. 20,000 people here, and from our former state senator said that they are getting an average of $600 to $1,600 a month in Social Security. So to say it's an average of 1,000 and say there's truly only 20,000 a year, that's $20 million a month being spent in one county just to subsidize these people, and that's driving other people out of their homes. We could take that money, like I said, give it grants to businesses so they can modernize. Instead of bringing in migrants to work low-wage jobs, let's make the high-wage jobs, and let's train our kids to take those jobs. That would cost a lot less than $20 million a month.
What's your name, my man?
Bill Monaghan.
Bill?
Yeah.
I appreciate your thoughtful perspective. I'll give you mine here, all right? Because I think that this is so the situation is so broken, the status quo, that I think it's pretty coherent to say, you know what, just start with a blank slate and start over. Here's my view on it, is that there's a dishonesty to the current program and the justification for it. And here's the dishonesty I'm talking about. Right? It's usually an economic justification for a program that actually was not economically motivated in its first place. So the program I'm talking about, many of you are I've been surprised talking to people in Springfield today how knowledgeable people are on the actual legal details even. But the program I'm talking about is Temporary Protected Status, TPS, okay? It was designed as a humanitarian program largely used after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. And I think it is beyond bizarre that we should somehow assume that all of those people organically just decided to come to Springfield, Ohio. I mean, I love Springfield, Ohio, don't get me wrong, but I think that most of them on the CBP One app, which is what they use to come into the country, check Chicago, Miami, New York. I don't think Springfield is on the list. So I think that that's also a separate question, which I'm open to taking some questions and comments on. That I think that there's been some hard questions asked about exactly what the heck is going on there. But in response to that, I'm not in favor of necessarily throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in the sense that if you had somebody that came in 20 years ago there's a whole range of other countries too. I mean, people who might be a doctor in the community who trained in the right way, came legally, that'd be one thing. But if somebody came here through temporary protected status, which is a humanitarian program, and now you're using an economic justification to keep them, that's dishonest. So that's dishonesty. And I think we got to at least be honest and speak the truth. And the T in temporary protected status means something, right? It stands for temporary. So all I would say is if you want to bring people to the country economically because it's going to benefit the citizens of the United States, pass that through Congress, make the justification, and say how it helps Americans who are already here, and do it honestly through the front door. But don't do it through the back door, because that's just dishonest and erodes public trust in our system and in our government. And I think it's another example of our government systematically lying to us. So that's where I land on it. Thank you.